hello possums, yes it is I, the conspicuous moo. And as regular watchers of this channel might know, I'm quite a big fan of Elder Scrolls Online, and have ploughed many hours into my adventures in Tamriel. So, a new chapter gets announced recently, it's bound to get my attention. So, ZeniMax have presented us with the High Isles. Yes, we are going Breton plus, people. We're going to journey to the Sisters Archipelago to a new area of Tamriel altogether and get lost in the medieval wonders and subterfuge of this paradise from the ills of the world. Now, story-wise, it does look like there are now actually genuine efforts afoot to end the Three Banners War, and this has got to be a good thing because, let's be honest, it's getting a little bit tedious now, isn't it? We need something else to get our teeth into, perhaps a nice big set of cultists, or, some crazy Daedra offshoot who just needs a good hiding. After all, years upon years of incessant keep swapping and base capping, it would be nice to try and do something different than fight amongst ourselves. Now, from all that we've been told about High Isle so far, it appears to be a sanctuary from, pretty much all of the political wrangling, so it makes a rather good place to talk about ending the Three Banners War altogether. And so it seems like the natural location to kick off these peace talks, but as always, not everyone is happy with this idea. War tends to make money and breed discontent, which means more secret societies, and our boy ESO loves a good secret society, and there is one here with very nefarious intentions indeed. This time it's called the Ascendant Order, and they're really not interested in everyone having a group hug like the Teletubbies. They are led by the mysterious Ascendant Lord and his many minions, so that's going to be our antagonist for the main story bit, at least. High Isles itself has a Mediterranean inspiration, they said, so there's lots of classical medieval architecture here and castles and like timber framing. I love that stuff. That's really my kind of place. Well, I suppose it would be my kind of place if I wasn't a filthy Bosmer who preferred a nice cave or a snug pod to hide in. But and there's absolutely no doubt it's going to sound amazing as well. Now we've got a pirate trial. It's going to be called Dreadsail Reef, and a couple of dungeons are coming up as well with the first DLC, and it's called Ascending Tide. And judging from the previews anyway, they're looking absolutely fabulous as well. Incidentally, they're also on the PTS if you want to get a preview, like right now. So, overall, new lands, new dungeons, new trials, these are the staples of the ESO chapter diet by now, so you would imagine that there would be a generally positive reaction from the player base. And yet the reception to High Isles has been mixed, to say the least. So, what are people saying about it? Well, one big problem that seems to be sticking out for a lot of players is that there is a collectible card game being added to the game, and it appears to be the big set piece for this chapter. Now, I personally don't object to in-game collectible card games at all. I'm an absolute nut for Triple Triad on Final Fantasy XIV, for example. But, this new feature would probably have been better placed down the line of announcements. Because while there has been some clamour for a CCG in-game, it's not nearly been on the scale as other requests to improve Elder Scrolls Online. I guess at the end of the day, we're just going to have to see how the system works. Apart from it being a resource control game, there was surprisingly little detail in the actual reveal. They've already confirmed that, there will be special rewards like furnishings, etc. But, as long as there's nothing critical for personal progress, this is going to be fine. Otherwise, I think Zos will find out rather quickly that it's a very fertile place for player resentment. Moving on, if you look at this trailer, this is the teaser trailer for High Isles when it first came out, okay? So, what would be your first impression of what this chapter might be about? Because if you're one of the many people who thought piracy, naval battles, commanding your own ship, perhaps even a navy, maybe we're going after the Malma, I couldn't really blame you. I mean, there were a lot of people in that category. I mean, after all, what is there not to like about taking ESO combat into whole new directions? I mean, commanding, constructing, and commandeering your own ships? Sea battles? It sounds amazing. As you can imagine, a trailer like this led to an awful lot of speculation, which was fueled also by ZeniMax's own social media services about what the new expansion could potentially have in it. And so when the big announcement is made and almost nothing naval is present, there's bound to be a certain sense of anticlimax. On reflection, perhaps having a teaser trailer that depicts the wild weather and sturdy seamanship of the journey to the High Isles was probably a bad idea. A lot of players were a bit, pissed off. It seemed like a missed opportunity to many. And it's kind of hard to disagree. I mean, imagine, for example, how epic a PvP zone of a naval version of Cyrodiil would be. I mean, it would be entirely appropriate for a chapter based in a chain of islands. Sailing around in ships from fortified island to fortified island and boarding parties, cannons, coastal defences. It would be absolutely amazing, but absolutely none of that is taking place, or at least not yet. Now, while we're nearby this topic, we might as well talk about PvP, because that is another pain point in the game. Now, we got a lovely long letter from Zos regarding PvP on the 12th of January. Essentially, they announced that no further PvP content is likely for at least a year, while they rewrite the server architecture to support modern ESO. Now, that is a massive undertaking, and I think most players would have appreciated the update. However, and you knew there was a however coming, this is the latest in a long line of announcements about how they are going to improve server performance in PvP. Let's be honest, it has been years and years of lagfests, and Cyrodiil in particular, so it's not as if this is a brand new problem, or they haven't had enough time to come up with a solution a lot faster than this. Being told to wait for another solid year for a fix when so many previous ones have been tried and utterly failed, doesn't really inspire much confidence. Now, the PvP in ESO is, personally, for me, amazingly good fun. It's my favourite, I think, of all the MMOs I've tried. But at the end of the day, the server performance is usually still your greatest enemy on the battlefield, and it's just not fun wiping or having your gates crashed in because your entire party was stuck still or offline for several minutes at a time. So perhaps in the intervening 365 days, minor innovations can be made in Cyrodiil and the Imperial City to better reflect the changing times in the High Isles. For example, it's probably pretty much overdue time that the Daedra left and the final phase of the Three Banners struggle got underway. So, let's alter the layouts, repair a few streets, destroy a few keeps so people have to fight in the ruins instead. I mean, sweet Ifri, at this point anything will do. Because at the moment, PvP in High Isles has been offered a heavy set, a medium set, a light set, and some monster helms. Oh, and an outfit. It was a fairly excruciating listening to them trying to hype those up. Actually, no, I stand corrected. The collectible card game will have a PvP mode. I guess we'll find out which is more exciting, defeating your enemy using a meatbag catapult in the battlements of the keep you're defending, or an excellently placed card. I know where my money is. Anyway, let's move on. There are other things to talk about, like combat. Now, it's no secret that combat in ESO is a divisive subject. Many ex-players and ex-trialers cite the combat as the main reason they didn't get into the game properly. Now, once again, on a personal level, I love ESO combat, and I prefer it to World of Warcraft's and Final Fantasy XIV's tab targeting systems. But even I have to concede that the art of fighting people in this game is getting a little bit stale. After all, how fresh can you keep block, off-balance, and dodge mechanics after all of this time? I mean, eventually there will be a point when Zos will have to innovate on the system, whether that's bringing in additional actions or just completely revamping it. But at this point I wouldn't be surprised if many ESO veterans are thoroughly bored when fighting at the moment. So if you're not looking at new combat techniques and animations, then how about a new skill line or two? I mean, unfortunately these were entirely absent from the announcement, and has become another bone of contention. After all, chapters usually come with either new skill lines to level or changes to existing ones, like the vampire restructure. High Isles offers nothing at the moment, and that's a bit of an issue to many players. After all, skill lines are one way that you can individualize your character and make it play differently. Nothing new means that players will have to make do with what they already have available on their mains and ults. And additionally, there are no new classes for players to get their teeth into. And that really does play into the general theme of the apathy that some players have met the High Isles announcement with. While it's got all the base elements you'd expect from an ESO chapter, there isn't that big feature to entice players in, and multiple issues with the game in general are either not addressed, or will take at least a year to come good, if they do at all. Now, to be fair, it wasn't just a collectible card game they were talking about here. The two new companions are also going to be added in High Isles, Khajiit Sorcerer and Bastion's Wife. Now, I have previously covered my disinterest in companions when they first arrived in Blackwood, so this isn't a feature that catches my attention, though I know that they are popular for some players. That said, did we really need another plate-wearing stuffed shirt like Bastion? I mean, this Velour lady sounds like the perfect match to that insufferable whiny little prick. When you have a trailer with assassins in it, wouldn't an assassin companion have made a little more sense? I mean, at least they wouldn't moan when you're ransacking a house or squashing a bug. Hell, they'd probably help out. Yep, I'm sold. Give me a scumbag and a hood. We're going to lighten some heavy pockets tonight. There is another feature that they almost completely forgot about, but that's understandable when they admitted as much, that their Summerset geysers, for the most part with a bit of lava thrown in because, you know, volcanoes. I do hope these eruptions have a greater part to play in the general tale of High Isles, otherwise it's just another set of dolmens because it's ESO and we always have dolmens of some sort, although Morrowind managed to get by just fine without them, has to be said. You know, honestly, I would really like to hype this up, and there are a lot of good things to look forward to in High Isles, but it's not as if they're breaking the mold here. It's eerily reminiscent of the Ian Hazzikostas design strategy that has worked out so well for modern World of Warcraft. Copy-paste all of the usual stuff, and then add a bunch of stuff that nobody was really asking for, and have absolutely no iteration on the basic mechanics of the game, and especially classes. It is a bit of an oddity that, you know, we're here in 2022, and MMO designers continue to be reluctant to revisit class skills and abilities, combat mechanics, or fixing the server issues. You know, your character is your identity. You are adventuring through the world, through their eyes. So if you don't keep things fresh and interesting for players, if you don't mix up and how they work, you can have all the card games and mission tables in the world, but essentially you will lose players. They will get bored, lose interest, and go somewhere else. I think every player has that point where they realize they've done as much as they can or want to do with the character in front of them, and so they look to the developers for new directions for it to go in. And basically, ZOS and Blizzard just need to get back to basics on this. An upgrade for me currently is €40, or a little over 60 Australian dollars, and given the content reveal of High Isles, I just don't think it justifies that price just yet. Happily, the chapter itself isn't going live until June the 6th at the earliest for the PC, Mac and Stadia people. It's June 21st for the console warriors. So there are a few months yet for ZeniMax to share more ideas and get more information out to get us more excited about this latest offering. But put bluntly, that lineup, if unchanged, is going to be a very, very hard sell to potential and current players of ESO. It feels like a comparatively low-energy offering when pitted against the newer and larger competitors in the market, and Blizzard Entertainment can attest to what happens when you tread water in the MMO space and better alternatives show up. It also lacks a certain amount of ambition in that it doesn't have anything that could seriously entice ex-players or curious onlookers to give it a try again. It'll probably do just enough to retain most of the player base they currently have, but in these crowded market times, ZeniMax needs to be doing more to get that login server crashing. Anyway, what do you think? I mean, are you excited for High Isles, or are you just ambivalent? Have you pre-purchased already, or are you going to wait for it to be discounted like me? I mean, personally, I would pay half of what they're charging for it right now, but you know, from my perspective, I still have a lot of Tamriel to cover all over again. Well, that is it from me for now. I will be back relatively soon, but until then, I am the conspicuous Moo, and I bid you adieu.